Hi, and welcome to Gold Mines. Today we are talking with Voskin. He's one of the co-owners of Cobex Construction Group. We're going to go ahead and mine his knowledge. We're going to figure out what the takeaways are from construction, roofing, siding, windows. We want to know the lessons learned, some of the key takeaways for people that want to maybe get into the industry. And pretty much it. Let's get into it.
Hey, good to see you, brother. How you doing?
Good to see you as well, Vazo. Always a pleasure. Knowing you for a little while now. And I love your journey, to be honest. I mean, you're a great model for the industry. I think a lot of people in the community look up to you. And you fit that role model position very well in the people that you're surrounded with. But I know you've done a little bit of different ventures, and I know you've worked at a couple of different places. So why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the different ventures that you've opened up or tried. And then let's get into Kobex right afterwards.
Perfect. Yeah. So immigrated here in 94 with the family. I was 5 years old and just kind of had that typical immigrant journey, saw my dad work really hard in the trades. He was a painter by trade, but, we did a lot of construction on our home. So I got to work on some fun projects with my dad. It's kind of that memory that I have, as a child, that fresh smell of lumber, that seeing the construction of the house going up. And it always felt good. I always liked being around real estate, construction, building, anything like that. I managed to buy my first house when I was 20, which was, one of the best things that I did for myself. And so at that time, this is 2011. So it was at the bottom of the market. So I'll tell you, I bought my first home for half of what it was when it was at the peak. And the monthly payments were so much less than what rentals were going for. So it was just it was a no-brainer. Luckily, the market started picking up, and along the way I got married, so a few years later I bought a little condo, and that condo did really well too. I flipped it, and then I bought a house in Fair Oaks, and that did really well. So I saw that, hey, I like construction, I like home, I like renovations, I like this area, this space. But I was a full-time personal trainer. I was going to school at Sac State. I was a kinesiology major. I was going to be a physical therapist. I was going to, make my parents happy by getting that, nice, cushy job and everything. But, part of me was not fully satisfied with it. I just couldn't see myself, being a physical therapist. No offense, but it just wasn't. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it to kind of check the box and, make my parents happy. But ultimately, when I got into grad school at Sac State, I just was lost, man. I was like, what am I doing here? I'm 2 weeks in, and it took another student to be like, Vaz, what are you doing? Like, I'm surprised to see you here. Like, because, this person knew I was a little bit more on the business, ambitious side. I was going to go into something like that. And I think and at the time I was, dating my now wife, and she was like, yeah, this isn't you, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I dropped out of the program, luckily quick enough to still get the full refund because it was only 2 weeks into the master's program at Sac State. But yeah, I dropped out and said, okay, I'm gonna figure it out, and my training business was growing. I had a little personal training studio. I loved working with my clients. It was doing well, it was checking all the boxes, and but then from there, I met some friends from church. I got married with my wife, and in 2016 or 15, and in 16, a couple of friends of mine from church, said they wanted to start a construction company, piqued my interest, and all it took was a question of like, hey, who do you know that's doing this well? And they're like, we have a friend in San Diego. My now partner Demetrius, I have a friend in San Diego. He started this home services business. Basically, he offers home improvement services, and they're doing really well. I was like, well, would you be down if we go down and check out his operation? He said, yeah. So we flew down, 3 days there, and kind of the light bulb went off. And I'm like, okay, I think I could see myself doing this. And I saw the vision. And that's how in 2017, Kobex got started.
Nice. Now, I think you're the third entrepreneur that I've talked to that was in school, questioned themselves, dropped out, was like, I mean, you've obviously got your undergrad, and just was like, let me go start something because this is not it.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating about your story is that you were already kind of doing fitness at the time, But at a young age, you said the smell of lumber kind of lingered in the back of your head, and your father was kind of doing this. And so the saying that comes to mind is that the apple does not fall too far from the tree. So it's funny how you're kind of following your father's footsteps. It's kind of like a launching pad into construction. So that's awesome. So you did that. Now you did your walkthrough. You guys checked it out. You're like, this is it. Tell me those early stages on that formation. How did you go from that concept into like the initiation of this? Like, I'm sure you're sitting there brainstorming, planning out financials. Like, did you work with Dimitri? Did he give you the blueprints, or did he fast track you into Cobex? Or tell me about that baby phase of growing into a full-blown company.
So Dimitri and Sergi at the time, right now it's Dimitri and myself. Sergi moved to Florida, and Dimitri and I are running the business. They had a different business. It was a property preservation business. They were maintaining bank-owned homes. They had some experience in construction. They did some flips. They did some new construction homes. But this is something completely different. This is offering a service to a consumer, to a residential consumer. And you're not working with investors. You're not flipping a home, where you're just dealing with you, yourself, and maybe some subcontractors. It's a consumer-facing business, and now you're building a brand. You're building a presence. You're building a website. You're building a CRM, accounting. There's many, many more layers to it. So we were all brand new. We none of us really had an idea of like, okay, what needs to happen here. So part of the reason why I'm so passionate about really wanting to reach my hand and, if somebody has questions, help them out or just kind of point them in the right directions, because somebody did that to me when I was starting. Mike Jang from Project Eco, him and his partner at the time, Simon, which was Dimitri's friend. Mike, helped consult us in the beginning. He came from a sales background, worked for, at the time it was Sears Home Improvement, which was a big sales organization that did home improvement sales. So he had a blueprint, he adopted it. And then, so I got to kind of pick his brain and consult with him if like, hey, what does a sales process look like? How do you get leads? What's important, when you're creating a website? What is a CRM? What are we talking about here? This is all new stuff. Like, for those of you who don't know, CRM is a customer resource management tools where you have your customer information and documents and everything, and you're just tracking your leads, your sales, your project management. But it was the infrastructure. In the beginning, it was mostly like, hey, we're small. No one knows who we are. How can we appear bigger than we are? So that's where the branding came in. And I luckily started that early on. We stuck with Cobex because, first of all, we stuck with the name Cobex because at first it was going to be Cornerstone Construction Group. That was the name. And it was a symbolic meaning. I'm a Christian. My partners are too. And the cornerstone is like the keystone that all the other stones are built on. And Christ said he's the cornerstone. And I loved the thing, but I thought I was very clever with it until I went to register with the Secretary of State and get a corporate. I'm like, there's a lot of Cornerstone Constructions out there. But I already chose the logo. I had the little C. I had everything, I liked it. I'm like, okay, well, I like the logo. I don't want to change it. Well, what starts with a C, So we're like writing stuff down and like, I'm like, man, I can't think of anything like that I like that starts with a C. So I just made up a word, Cobex. I was like, wait, that sounds really good. It looks good. I'm like, and we all looked at it and we're like, yeah, let's go with that. So, but the branding part in the beginning was just kind of just building a presence, like bigger than you are. So at first we started with basically no money invested into this business. I'm talking, we may have gathered about $1,000 to just buy leads. We had a small office, about a 10 by 10 office that we set up those little white plastic desks, and we had some old PCs. And so we were doing everything. We were the receptionist, we were the project manager, we were the salesperson. And I was like, somebody would call in, like, hey, I'm asking, I'm looking to get this done. Okay, let me transfer you to, So it was a lot of, just kind of impersonating a bigger company at first because we had to, because we were brand new. And then we just kind of snowballed it from there. We stole some jobs, we were able to reinvest, and everything kind of grew organically. But basically, we had a footprint. We had an idea of what we needed to do, and then we kind of made it our own.
So you had your office.
Yeah.
You had some consulting, some direction, which is great. I think if someone's already doing it, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
When you were originally starting off, what services did you offer? I mean, you do roofing, siding. Tell me about what you guys offered in the beginning, and then go into, do you still offer that? Did you change direction, or what are you doing? What are you offering today versus what you were offering in the beginning?
Great question, man. So about the consulting, about the advising, real quick, I'll just say that one of my strengths, I would say, is that I'm always seeking, to get somebody who's been there before, to pick their brain, to ask questions. I love to read. I attended a lot of conferences, asked a lot of questions. Like I'm not naive enough to think that I know everything and I got it figured out. I like to pick the brains of people that have done it already. And so that's always been consistent for us, and that's never going to stop, because there's always more and more to learn. In the beginning, it was profit, people, process, because you have to make profit. You have to make profit. You're a brand new company. You can't afford not to. You can't work too much on culture. You can't focus too much on process. You gotta turn the money. It's cash flow. You got to make some profit. So it was like, okay, well, what do you need us to do? Gutters, no problem. Sprinklers, okay. Lawn, whatever. What do you need? And we found a sub that can do it. We sold it, and we had some pricing with the subs, and we were able to turn out some profit. And so that was fine when there's 3 of us, 2 of us, and we're selling. But as our company grew, and just kind of put it in context, like in 2018, which was our official first year, we did $4 million in gross sales that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we just exploded the first year. I had, within that first year, we had 30 employees. It was fast, and it was crazy. And, I had a canvassing team. I had a home show team. We were buying leads everywhere. And it was like, I'm telling you, that the first 2 years, it was great, because my thing was like, hey, I want to tell the customer, like, hey, we're your contractor for life. We can do everything from A to Z. You don't have to worry about hiring anybody else. We'll take care of it all. But the problem came when we were now trying to scale, teach the sales reps, the project, we call them project consultants, sales reps. I mean, there's no shame in calling them sales reps, because that's what they are, and they should be proud of it. But they, trying to teach them, for example, all the nuances of a kitchen, right? You're doing a kitchen, you got the tile, you got the cabinets, then you got the plumbing, then you got the electrical, paint, texture. There's a lot of different trades that run into it, and there's a lot of moving pieces. There's the design aspect of it and everything. Okay, cool. Maybe one guy knows how to do it, but it's to train everybody on every single product and have a process for it was difficult, and it was a pain point. It was a bottleneck. We didn't have the processes for it. Luckily, it didn't really hurt us in a sense where the quality of the work suffered or anything like that. It was clear that this isn't sustainable, so we had to start cutting back trades. And over the years, COVID came by and really helped us cut out everything in the interior, because we're like, hey, we can't go inside the house. We like exteriors better anyways. Okay, we're not going to do 32 trades. We're going to do these 16 trades. So then COVID helped us stay on the outside of the house, and so we became more focused on exteriors. And then over the years, we just kept cutting, to the point right now where we're roofing, siding, and windows. And last year, roofing was about 55%. And this year, we're on track to do about 80 to 85% roofing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys are really specializing in roofing.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a second now. 32 trades, that's a lot of different aspects of the home. Were you 3 and your 30 employees doing this, or were you subcontracting out? And if you were subcontracting out some jobs, how do you find those subcontractors?
Well, that's always if you ask anybody in the construction trade, what's the hardest aspect of the business, it's always finding labor. Luckily, we had, through the introduction of, one sub, then they introduced it to another sub, then, you find out who's kind of good in the industry, and kind of became a referral type of somebody recommended this person for roofing, and then this person. Dimitri's father had a business, and they did a lot of the kitchen and the bathroom stuff for us. So New Lead Construction did a lot of our installs. They did a great job. They're very easy to work with. We had a great sub for roofing. And so it just kind of became a referral based. And then what happened quickly was we found the subs that we really like to work with, and we made them what we called captured subs, meaning they were subcontractors, but they didn't have time to work for anybody else really, because we were able to keep them busy enough to work for us. So they operated as a sub, but pretty much they only did our jobs, and we had full control of their schedule. So that really helped us in two ways. Number one, quality control. Number two, scheduling, and then lastly, we know kind of if things slow down, it's a sub. Yeah, you still want to give them work, but they're not your employee where you're like, hey, stay home and I don't have any work for you. Like they're a sub, technically they can still pick up jobs other places. So it allowed us to kind of pivot, right? With the market. It allowed us to pivot quicker with the market using subs in the beginning.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It really sounds like the community that you built with your contractors, with your referrals, really allowed you to expand into a lot of different trades. And as your company grew, you were able to kind of scale back into the more profitable areas while retaining the subcontractors that really were specialized in things that could really help you out. So that community that you kind of built really gave you that launching pad into like what you offer today. So tell me, what is the specific trades that you're down to today? And then talk to me about the materials, because I know like if I'm doing roofing, siding, if I'm calling around for quotes, if there's a storm or something like that, I'm always looking for the best deal.
Right.
I don't want to pay more than I have to. Obviously, home insurance will cover most of it, granted, but I'm always, they're only going to pay so much.
Right.
And I'm always looking for the best quality for my home and for the most affordable price for what the insurance is willing to pay, because I'm not going to pay 20 grand. I don't have 20 grand to pay. So what do you guys offer today? And talk to me about the materials that go into each trade.
Yeah, great question, man. So look, materials wasn't typically traditionally an issue, right? Until COVID happened. Then the supply chain issues started coming, specifically for some of the trades we're offering, like windows, anything aluminum, shingles. Luckily, we were okay with because it was manufactured in America. We had a good enough buying power to where we had options to purchase because of our relationship with the supply company that we were working with. And we didn't really run into too many material issues outside of windows, I would say. Siding was still okay. And then at this point, we already cut out a lot of the other trades. I know cabinets, like lumber was crazy. So I think the question is, who is your a customer? Who are you trying to serve? Okay. I'm not looking to work with somebody that's looking to, like, let's say, flip a house and make a profit, right? Because that person is they don't necessarily care about the level of like, okay, are these guys all licensed? Are they insured? Or what's the product? What's the warranty? They're like, how cheap can you do it and when? I'm trying to flip this house, right? So we're not going to be the best option for that guy because, we have an organization, we have workers' comp, we have liability insurance, we have layers of protection. We warranty our products a lot differently than what they can do. And so my target, audience is a homeowner who, wants peace of mind, a stress-free experience. They want financing to be able to pay for this project because they don't have $20,000 to cough up for it. Maybe they can find Chuck in a truck to do it for $15,000, but I'm going to be $20,000, but they're going to have peace of mind. They're not going to have to deal with the stress. We're going to do it from A to Z with permitting and everything, and we're going to make it, under $150 a month for them for their roof. And it's a very simple process, that we make it for the customer. It's a stress-free experience. And so that's kind of how that's our niche, basically. It's just finding who that audience is. And I'm not, working with home remodelers or flippers or somebody, but if somebody is savvy, they'll still do their research. They'll check the reviews. They'll do a little due diligence and stuff. Nobody should feel like they are overpaying for something. I feel like if you're doing your job right as a company, people should feel that they got more than what they paid. If you did a good job, then they should feel like they got more than what they paid. They shouldn't feel like they got, ripped off or anything like that. So it's your job as the company to figure out what you need to do to create that experience. Doesn't mean you have to drop your price. It just means you have to figure out what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to improve your experience. Maybe you're going to provide a different, experience for that customer that they're going to feel like, hey, I really got my money's worth out of this experience.
So you said you're doing 80% of your revenue in roofing.
Yeah.
So tell me about the roofing process. You mentioned, you alluded to it anyways, permitting, being very responsive to the customer, walking them through the process, potentially giving them options of what type of material they want to use on the roof. It sounds like you're also looking for very high quality material. You're not trying to be the cheapest person in the roofing industry, but you're looking to be someone who, when they deliver a product, that product is going to stand on its own. The material will speak for itself. The roof's not going to get damaged. You're going to warranty it. It's going to have high quality stuff. Pain-free experience for the customer. They're not going to have to call you back.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of material do you use? Do you use high-end material? You get it from overseas, locally?
Yeah.
And then tell me about the permitting process a little bit. You said you permit a lot of this stuff. I would love to know what goes into permitting. You're working with multiple counties, multiple cities.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys, and also, are you guys only in California, or do you guys service what parts of California, or what states do you guys service?
Yeah. So right now we're in the greater Sacramento area. We do have plans, to kind of go into Central Valley, and, we'll see kind of, we have some plans ahead, but we're right now serving the greater Sacramento area. We did acquire a small roofing company in Auburn, more in the foothills, that specializes in commercial roofing. They've been in business for over 40 years, and that's going to be a foot in the door for us to kind of step into commercial. Great husband and wife team. They transitioned with us, and we're building that out. So very excited about that venture. So product is important. We want to be able to stand behind that product. We want to know that the product's going to deliver, that they offer, they have good warranties and they have good service. And we don't go for the bottom of the barrel, but we think we found a manufacturer that, stands behind their product and they care about their people. That's important too, because a lot of manufacturers, you're just another number. With this manufacturer, with Owens Corning, they really care about the people. Like, in fact, we're going to an event, a conference here in April, and they're inviting, their platinum members to go and spend, a few days with them, and they're really treating us. And, that experience that they give us is like, hey, we're invested in this with you, and let's give you the tools that you guys need to do well. But also knowing that warranty is going to be good. I mean, the company's been around since 1952. They actually invented fiberglass.
Wow.
So,
they
They
invented fiberglass?
invented fiberglass. So the attic insulation that you have, every shingle that's on the roof is built on a fiberglass base. And so all of them, all that fiberglass, everything is, Owens Corning does manufacture that. And then they add their own granules, their oils, and everything else on it. So, we knew they were kind of like the OGs, private company, and everything. Well, they're public on the stock market, not private. Sorry. They're actually on the they're a public company, but they care about their people, and so for us that was important. And also the training resources that we got was important. But yeah, so for us, we want to be able to have that customer have that peace of mind, right? That, hey, if Kobex, God forbid, and of course this isn't going to happen, but if Kobex is out of business, right, tomorrow we're not here, what happens to your 50-year warranty, your 10-year, 20-year warranty that you got, right? Well, it's backed by the manufacturer. So if we're not going to be able to service it, they will have another platinum or preferred contractor come and service that roof. So it's that additional layer, and it's transferable. So it's that peace of mind that customer has, hey, maybe I'm going to sell my house and I can transition this to the next homeowner, give that added value, or pass it down to my children, or no, just, I have that. So that answers kind of the question about the product. It is important to us, but more important than the product, because there's a lot of great products out there. It's about our process, and that's what we try to highlight in the home. how our process differs from the competition, what we do differently. We don't talk about the competition too much. I would never want one of my guys to go out there and say, hey, this guy, don't go with them. They'll do this, they'll do that. That happens a lot, and usually it comes from sales reps that are very commission hungry, and they'll just do what they need to get that sale. And so, at all expense, but it just really reflects badly on the company, and it's not the right way to do it. For us, it's just let's showcase our process. Let's tell them how we install it, what we do differently, and just make it more about our process. Of course, we stand behind our products, but that's what we focus more on.
So in that same breath, tell me about the process. The customer finds you, picks up the phone, gives you a call. Tell me from A to Z, what do you do?
Perfect. So look, however they found us, whether if it was Google, or various, trucks, maybe billboard, radio. I diversify my marketing for a strategic reason, or whether we found them through a source and we called them. First impression is important. So the person taking in the call, how they qualify the customer, ask the questions, and build that initial interaction. Once that's qualified and set, it's assigned to a project consultant, right? And the project consultant are sales reps. When they have that appointment, they'll go introduce themselves to the customer. And really what we do first and foremost is we make sure that they understand, like, hey, you're there to help them through this process by asking them the right questions and seeing if they're going to be a good fit. We're going to be a good fit for each other, and just making it about them, right? It's easy for consultants to go in there and just talk their mouths off and just, talk themselves out of a job, because they just, here's all the features and benefits. Look, this is all the data, and they can go on 80% of the time just overwhelming that conversation, and just talking about all the features and benefits about the product, how great the product is, and everything. But really, what we try to do is have them be the guide in the process. There's this book, it's called Story Brand, and it talks about the hero's journey. And it's this archetypal story where, you have the character that, runs into an external problem, right? And they run into this issue, and now they have an external problem, an internal problem, and they don't know what to do, how to process the next step. It could be any part of their journey. Maybe they have a leak, and, in comes the guide, the experienced person that's been there before, has the sympathy and understands. And the guide, kind of the Mr. Miyagi, the Yoda, comes in, asks the questions, and then gives them the game plan. Here's our game plan. Here's how we're going to process this. Here's how we're going to tackle it, right? Gives them the game plan, and then we're the character, which is the star of the story, not Cobex. We're not the stars. You're the star of the story. We're just the guide. We're going to help you through this journey, and then they'll give them the game plan. The main character, which is the customer, will take that on. They'll, the villain, the evil villain, whether it's the leak, the fungus, the mold, the storm, evil villain will be defeated, and will, they took care of the issue. And so the process is more question based. It's more, customer focused. From there, that's just the interaction. But from there, then it's handed off to production. Production comes in, and now it's their job to fulfill what's been promised to them. And their job is to give them the customer experience that from the initial on-site inspection to make sure everything looks good, to communication. And we have technology that, helps us make sure that we keep them in a loop. We send them a link that keeps a live kind of progress update of what's happening in their project. We have new tools that are coming that's actually going to give them a custom dashboard, so that all their information, the communication, all the warranty, the documents, the permits will be there. And then, we basically kind of keep them in loop as the project goes along. We take care of the permitting. We have a whole process of how we install it, what we do differently, what kind of equipment we use, what the install process of the roof is, how we're going to protect their home. And so we explain that to them very briefly. And then, we basically take the project through production and then hand it off to the project foreman. The project foreman is the lead on the job. Now we have in-house teams. We don't have subs anymore. We went in-house. Project foreman is the project lead. They're coming up with a game plan of how to move this job along. Then you have a superintendent. The superintendent is in the field. Their responsibility is just circulate with the 4 or 5 projects that they have, make sure everything's good, compliance, safety. There's a whole lot there. Materials delivery, customers, understanding everything correctly. If there's a change order, if there's any issues that come up, they're dealing with the customer and they're dealing with the installer. Then above the project foreman, there's a dedicated project manager. The project manager is in the office usually, and they're scheduling, they're organizing, they're planning, they're doing the job costing, they're kind of behind the scenes, just playing it all out. And then above him, we have a production manager, and that's my partner. He oversees the production. So we have layers, so that way things don't get missed and that people are not running around. And all this came from experience, because in the beginning, we just ran circles. Whatever we had to do, job signs, we'll do it. We didn't have a runner, talk to the sub, go back to the office. It just was, but over time, we just learned how to kind of layer it up in a way where it gave the customer the best experience. The guys were more focused, more efficient in what they were doing. And so that's kind of how we have the process set up. And we briefly kind of go over that with the customer, not into this level of detail, but we reassure them that, this is how we install it. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is what you'll get at the end. And yeah.
Great feedback. The two things that jump out at me is that Cobex is a very customer-centric company. They're looking for the customer success, the customer's happiness, providing great customer service based on what you've just explained. The other thing that jumps out at me is that you're really looking for that supply chain integration, so high quality products, the warranties, the transferability, so like that peace of mind that you're talking about for that customer experience, I think does speak volumes. You mentioned something briefly. You said that you guys were having subcontractors and you're doing everything in-house now. Is that because of profit margins or is that for other reasons?
It was never initially for profit margins. In fact, we didn't know if it would be more profitable. We hoped that it would be. And I can tell you it depends. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But it wasn't for that specifically. It was more for control and quality. We wanted to make sure that, we have a consistent process. Even with our subs, we still maintained the quality control. We still had a project manager. We still had them follow our process and stuff. But it just gave us a little bit more ability to kind of go out to emergency needs, like emergency roof services, emergency tarping. Like there's not a lot of roofers that are available for that because either they don't have the capacity, or B, they're using subs, or C, they think it's not a money maker. It's going to be a waste of their time going out in the middle of a storm to tarp a roof, right? For us, it's different because it's like, well, I don't want to be a roofing company that can't come out and do a repair or tarp your roof, like, oh, I only do replacements. And so how can I create a service department that's willing to do that, an emergency service department that's willing to do that? Because, again, it's customer experience. And also what it does is it builds trust. I just tarped this guy's roof, right? I tarped 5 roofs, and 1 out of 5 is probably going to call me back to install their roof because I was the first one to respond. We built that trust. It's also strategic in a way, you're building that trust, but it's also a level of service. With the in-house, it just became more of us wanting to own the experience from A to Z. We have we give them the trucks, they're also representing us better. And that's not to say you can't do it successfully with subs. It just, right now we like the way it's going, having full in-house control. And it is more work, right? But at the end of the day, I think we're focused. If we're focusing more on the customer, we have to look at what's going to give them the best experience, and kind of that's what we're leaning towards.
No, that's awesome. The question that comes to mind is like, you guys were in this 10 by 10 office, a few of you guys, and over the last 5 years, tremendous growth, cut back on some of the trades. You guys are now primarily focused on roofing. You guys do windows. Mm-hmm. What else do you? Siding and solar.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the 4 primary?
So we typically on our, like in our branding, for example, on our trucks, whatever, magazines, whatever we have out there, we say roofing, window, siding. So that's typically the 3 that we advertise. But of course, with siding, you have exterior paint. With roofing, solar comes in. So that's probably going to stay that way for a little bit. I think depends on how things go. We may just kind of just only focus on roofing and integrate solar more with it, because solar and roofing are they're just
they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. And we're seeing that it's, we're going to be dealing more and more with solar because more and more houses
It's
are
required. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, hey, we're not aggressively trying to advertise or market it to us, but over the years we built out a full-time person that does solar installs for us. And usually when customers ask, we tell them we can do it. And now it's becoming more of a strategic approach where we're offering it. So probably just going to be heavy roofing and solar. And then with siding, we'd like to keep it, because it does tie into the roof. Windows, we'll see. We still like it. It's like I think I'm kind of really into specialization now, especially if you're starting commercial. And we're not, we haven't really done too many metal roofs. We haven't done too many, there's specialty roofs and there's commercial. It's like, well, maybe and sometimes it's funny because you're thinking, okay, what do you want to do? And sometimes the business is making the decision for you. Like I said, last year was 55%. Last 4 months was like 85%. I think the business is making a decision for us, guys. I think we're going to have to lean in this direction.
Yeah. So I think the great takeaway here is lean into your profit margins and go deeper into your strengths. If that's the way the business is kind of moving you, and now if it was windows, you would have moved into windows. If it was siding, you would move it, right?
That's a great point because it was never like, oh, we love roofing. It was just that, hey, we just happen to be really good at roofing. It wasn't, and people in roofing were like, oh, profit margins suck. They're not that great. Windows are great. Any kind of like a patio cover or kitchen or any kind of luxury, great profit margins, but guess what? You're always going to need a roof. It doesn't matter what the economy is, you're not going to want, water pouring into your house. Maybe we have to pivot and focus on repair and service or whatever. But there's still, it just seemed like it's a constant. It's not sexy, like a kitchen, no one's excited about a roof, but everyone needs a roof, and honestly, it's the crown that protects the home. If you don't have a good roof, it's your biggest asset for most homeowners, for most people, is their home, and the roof is the number one thing that protects their asset. And, and so for us, it just kind of, it worked out. That doesn't mean for somebody else it won't be something different. It could be siding, it could be windows, it could be kitchen, it could be landscaping, plumbing, electrical. It could be anything. There's nothing special about roofing. It just happened to be the one that worked for us.
No, that's awesome. The question that I really wanted to ask was, through that explosive growth and really that community that helped you launch into roofing with the contractors and everybody, with COVID happening, being able to downsize and really specialize into certain categories and kind of move that direction. What were the challenges that you've experienced, and what would you do differently if you were to start Cobex all over again?
Man, I'd like to think that if I started all over again, I would just start with roofing and only focus on that, right? And then add stuff more, as we build out our processes, then we can add other things. But I don't know, because I didn't do it that way. I started with everything and I narrowed down. Maybe it is the better approach to start with something, specialize in it, and then add more products as you have a system and process down. I don't have the answer to that because I've only done it this way. And, there's examples of, okay, well, eBay, Amazon, they only sold diapers and books or whatever, or books first, and then they went and added all these other stuff later. Sure, I'm sure there's, for each one of those examples, there's all these other examples. I do like specialization. I do like the idea of specializing if you can, being really good at, a few things rather than trying to do everything. But look, if you're a new business, right, you're not going to know. Sometimes you just have to get a feeler out there to see what's good. But if it's kind of like going to school, right? What do you want to major in? Well, I don't know. Like I like exercise. I like fitness. I hurt my back. I went to a physical therapist, and I'm like, I can see myself doing this. I guess I'll do physical therapy, right? I didn't have like a specific game plan, but then I went through it, and I'm like, I don't really like it that much, And so I think you just have to keep an open mind if you can afford to. Otherwise, if you just lock in on something and decide to make it that, then I'm sure there's opportunity there. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, you kind of did. It sounds like, the lessons learned or the challenges kind of going into the industry.
What would I do differently?
Yeah, it's like, it sounds like you offered everything because you had to,
Yeah,
but it's desirable to already know the answer.
of course.
But you don't know the answer. So you don't know what to do differently.
Exactly. It's always like, hindsight is always 20/20, right? And it's like that for so many different things, but I'm happy that I went through all of that, everything that we went through. I'm happy that I had a home show department, a canvassing team, all these different marketing sources. And even with marketing, it's like, well, dude, I don't know what's going to work, right? I don't know if this magazine, this mailer, this ad, I don't know. But all I know is, look, I'm trying to stay within obviously have a parameter to work with, right? Depends on your business. Maybe marketing will be 5% of it. Maybe it'll be 10. Some people, I've heard 20% of their, top line is marketing, which is crazy to me, but hey, it works for them, right? But for us, we just stuck to a number and it was 5%, and that was my number. Okay, if whatever we do in gross, I have this budget, I'm going to test it out and I'm going to see what works. Because I set that number for myself, I got to experiment with a lot of different things. And I'm like, cool, like 1 out of 8 would hit a home run. And all it would take is that one home run to cover the cost of that other 7 that failed. And then it worked. And it goes like that for a lot of other things too. We've tried a lot of softwares. We've been through CRMs. It's an annoying process, man. Having to, get adoption from your whole team to get this new software up and going right when they finally learned it. And we tell people when we hire them and now too, like, hey, look, if you're uncomfortable with change, this isn't going to be a good fit for you. Like, don't get comfortable. As soon as you get comfortable with something, we're probably going to,
change something.
We're probably going to change something, because guess what? Going from 0 to 2 million and from 2 to 10 and from 10 to 20, all of it requires a complete,
reassessment along the way.
Complete reassessment along the way. You're not going to do the same things. It's probably not going to be the same people that are going to take you there. People are going to change. Processes are going to change. Don't get married. Don't get sentimental to any specific thing. Keep an open mind. Be a little paranoid, but at the same time, just, be comfortable with change. And it's hard for some people. It's a little easier for others, but just kind of getting comfortable with just, having to adapt and moving quickly. And I think that helped us a lot. So, one thing I did learn, though, from speaking to so many different people, is that there's not just one way to skin a cat. There's so many different ways to approach your business, and there's not one right way. You can find out from talking to people like what you like, and borrow and adapt and customize and make it your own. But every business is a little different. There are good practices to follow. For sure, like, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Adopt the good practices and then just kind of customize it as you go along. But I don't really have too many things where I'm like, maybe even I was going to say defining roles between partners, but at the same time too, at the beginning, we just had to do what we had to do. It wasn't like sit down, cut and dry. I mean, I was sales, marketing, business development. They were on production. So we kind of stuck in our lanes for the most part. But guess what? If they needed to step in and help out with sales, I needed to step in and help out with the production operations. It was like that. It was not, so cut and dry. But as you grow, it is better to kind of just, have your specifically what you're overseeing and what you're delegating. And so.
It sounds like you've found a lot of employees who have a lot of trust into you and Dimitri, the direction that you guys take the company, the pivoting that you guys are continuously doing, following the market trends to adapt, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the question that comes to me is, how do you guys deal with burnout? Because it feels like you guys are going whichever way the wind blows you, and really making it a quality type of product regardless. Now you guys have kind of isolated down to roofing, which is great. Not as much change as before, but through that growth process, there's growth pains, and burnout is definitely something that everybody experiences. So how do you deal with that, the burnout?
So, when you have more clarity and vision and direction, it helps a lot more. We did have whichever way the wind would take us in our first 2 years, and that's what it was. And that's when the burnout happened. That's when we experienced it, because it was kind of chaos. But as we narrowed down and had a better vision of what we wanted to do, it became more clear, what our goal is, what we're looking to, where we're aiming for, what our goal is. So with when it, I mean, look, burnout. If you're not having the level of support that you need, or you're overwhelmed, or sometimes you have really difficult people that you're dealing with, it's inevitable. It could happen to anybody, but it's just about kind of communicating with people, checking, see where they're at. Maybe they need to take a little bit of a break. Maybe they need to be moved to a different project. Maybe if they're having difficulty with a specific customer and they're just not making progress, be like, hey, let me take this customer on, let me take it from here. Right. It's okay. It happens from time to time. Or, there really shouldn't be that level of burnout, unless you have there's seasons and there's ebbs and flows. So definitely there's peaks, like especially when we had this last storm, it was crazy, but at the same time, we wanted to be available and be there. But I think for the individual, it really has to be balanced, right? For me, it's like, look, I had to learn to come home and wash my hands. This was a lesson taught to me by somebody that's in our roofing industry. And he taught me this. He said, look, when you come home, wash your hands. Wash your hands, because you don't want to take that with you to your kids, to your family, the stress, or maybe what you were dealing with at home, and just, kind of reset real quick. And I think I have an ability to do that, even though I can't say I turn off. As a business owner, you're always on, but I never really carried it with me that to that level. I was able to kind of offset it and just kind of, set it aside and just focus on, I think, I try to encourage my employees to do the same thing as best as possible. They're very passionate about what they do, and they, there's guys in there that, they won't leave until I tell them to go home. And I'm like, hey, you're done. Like, it's time to go home, and of course I love that as an employer, but at the same time I understand they're people, and, I care about their health and their well-being and everything. So it's going to happen. But, I think it's better to, as a business owner, as a leader, I think it's better to try to catch that in people, and then just talk to them and see if there's support, or maybe just kind of help them, coach them through that little season. But, it's not an easy business. There's a lot of moving parts. So, just try our best, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think you have a high tolerance for that. I think that's what I'm hearing. And I think you have a trigger where you go home, you wash your hands as a memento to yourself to say, okay, this is it. I'm not bringing any of my stress home. You're able to turn off, be with the family, go back to work the next day. I think, again, the team that you've built around you is a testament to your leadership style. When people are working longer than they have to support your company, to support your business and your vision, I think that's only because you've established that level of respect in the organization. And I think that kind of speaks volumes for Cobex in general. So if someone was to get into construction all over again, what are some of the key takeaways that you can give someone who's thinking about opening up their own construction business, or even thinking about doing buying some of your services? Like, what's some advice you can share with the people that want to be entrepreneurs, and then also on the customer side, what advice can you give them when they're looking for products?
So for specifically, I would probably say, look, find a mentor. For some reason, mentorship is not as big of a deal here in this country as it is in some other countries. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't mean you have to do everything that, like, it's not going to be line item by line item, everything you have to do, but get some idea or get a direction, and find somebody that you really can look up to. And if your mentor is great in this, but really sucks when it comes to family, really sucks when it comes to like you have to be mindful of that, right? Because I really believe that proximity, relationships, surroundings have way more of an effect on you than even like books, education, and many of those other things, which are super important. But I think the proximity of the energy of the people, that you're around will elevate you, and you'll pick up things that you won't even notice, subconscious things that you'll pick up. So really find somebody that you can, learn from, that you respect, that, maybe is an older brother or a mentor or somebody that's done it, and you're seeing that, hey, they can kind of be a guide for you. And you'd be surprised. A lot of those people would love to be able to, pass on what they learned to somebody else. Like for me, Somebody helped me with that. So I feel like I need to pay it forward, right? I do have, I do have some ideas, about what I would like to do in the future, specifically for people in the trades, specifically for people that are just trying to start. We actually have this, this vision of starting a RoofLaunch. What RoofLaunch will be is basically we'll basically create a process, create a map for people that just want to get in. I'm not talking about people to get from 10, 20 million. I just want, hey, make your first 2 million a year. This is what you have to do. Just at the baby steps, the infancy level, what you need to do. Let's at least get you started. Why? Because I think that it empowers people, business owners. It's good for the community. It puts the power back into the people at small business. I really believe in that. So I believe in small business. I believe in empowerment of small business and everything, and just kind of the freedom that it gives people, the opportunities. And it could do way more for you than a traditional college degree can, and you're serving people, and it's taking care of you, your family, and maybe other people that you bring on. So I do have plans to maybe do something like that here in the near future. So I would say start there, and then in the beginning, just soak up as much books as you can. Books on leadership, books on management, books on sales. Sales is the number one place to start, because you're always selling. You got to understand how to talk to the customer. You're selling a product. Doesn't matter how great your process and procedures are. If nobody's listening to you, or if you have nobody to persuade or convince or talk to, then it's not going to take you so far. So start there. If you have that in you, if not, partner up with somebody that has that, because it'll take you a long way. You don't have to be that guy. You could be the production guy, the operations guy, but find somebody that knows how to do that. Partner up with that person, or bring them on and hire them, or whatever the deal is. But those two play hand in hand, and then just just be willing to just ask a lot of questions, and just never stop learning. Never feel like you figured out. As soon as you feel like you have things figured out, okay, I got this, we're good, dude, you're done. That's it. You'll just be that guy that'll be like, okay, cool, I did this. This is good enough for me. I'm just gonna coast from here. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But just depends on how hungry you are and how much you want to do. You just for us, I think. It's it's like go as far as you can see, and then when you get there, keep going. That's it.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
Plug in your website, plug in where they could find you. Let us know.
Yeah. So Cobex Construction Group, CobexCG.com, CobexRoofing.com, TrustCobex.com. All of those will lead you to the same place. We're on social media. You can DM me personally. I think I'm Vosgen_D on Instagram. And then
YouTube channel is
YouTube channel Cobex YouTube channel. Just we started putting out some content there. Day in the life of Cobex. Just regular things. So for somebody that wants to see what it's like behind the scenes, they can check that out too.
That's awesome. So we will leave the links down in the description below, and we'll link to the Cobex channel, the Instagram, the social media. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with, or anything else that you want to highlight around the process or around Cobex that we didn't mention? Free form. Let me know if there's anything that jumps out at you.
No, man, I would just say, I think humility goes a long way, really, as soon as you feel like you have all the answers, you got it figured out, and all that, you're gonna put yourself into a corner. So just, humility goes a long way, and just passing it forward, and just kind of thinking about the people more than about, yourself. That's how you'll build a really good, solid team. They'll see that, and they'll want to work for you. They'll want to be a part of that team. They'll want to be a part of that culture. And so I think that would be kind of one of the central messages. And then just don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out, so yeah, that's a bit.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I do think, again, very great leadership style. And I think probably a lot of the success around Cobex is because of the attributes that you project onto the company and to the team. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Cobex, gold mines, and construction, roofing, siding, windows. Looking forward to see what you have with RoofLaunch. And hope you guys enjoy. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and find the links to the Cobex channel in the description. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the next one.